My crazy aunt tries to steal my MacBook, and when she can't she breaks it. So, I'm female, 17, and also on mobile. This is my entitled parent story. My auntie and her 3 children came from Texas to visit us for the weekend. I wasn't happy because her oldest son, 19, would always pick on me when I was younger. It was the first time in 10 years that she visited. She comes into our house with oldest son and a younger son, 12, and younger daughter, 8. I put on my best fake smile and say hi. I tell the 2 youngest that they can go upstairs and play on my Xbox until it is supper. I sit down beside my twin brother and my mom. I do lots of video editing / Photoshop, etc. And Final Cut Pro X is my software of choice. I got 15-inch MacBook Pro a few months ago because of this, as my 2013 iMac wasn't cutting it. As everyone was talking, and me and brother are using our phones, because our mom said we had to be down here to catch up with everyone. Entitled aunt goes upstairs to see the house. I follow her and offer to show her around the house. When she goes up there, she sees my MacBook and asks Hoss, is that? This is how the convo goes down. EA equals entitled aunt, me equals me, or Krusty. EA, Krusty. Whose laptop is that? Me. Oh. That's my laptop. Entitled aunt. Can I hold it? Me. Sure. Entitled aunt holds it. Entitled aunt. Wow, Krusty, this feels nice. Can I keep it? Me. Absolutely not. Entitled aunt. I'll pay you. This was probably like $500. Me. This is a $5,000 laptop. I worked my ass off for this thing. I'm not just going to give it to you. Entitled aunt. Krusty, I deserve it. I haven't seen you guys in 10 years, and you don't even get me a gift? Me. Is that my fault? I don't think so. Entitled aunt. Well, since you won't give it to me, you shouldn't be able to use it either. This bee opened the laptop and threw it on the ground, then stepped on it with her high heels. If we had carpeted floors, the laptop would have probably been fine, but we don't, and once she stepped on it, I knew it was done. I call my mom and dad, and they come running up. My mom asks why she did it, and she literally mumbled, because she wouldn't give it to me. She and all her children are banned from our house. I'm turning 18 in less than a week, so I will wait until I'm officially an adult to be able to sue her for damages. Wish me luck. Edit. Holy cow, thanks for the sliver. First post to get gilded. D. Edit 2. I'm going to file a police report and, hopefully, sue her. Congrats Reddit, you did it. Edit 3. I have filed a police report and we are going to court. Let's do this. Edit 4. I'm 18. I can sue this witch for my money. The trial is tomorrow. Edit 5. I won the case. I showed pics and everything to the judge, and my mom and dad heard the screaming, and when they came up, they saw her stepping on the laptop and took pics. She owes me a lot of money. I'm so happy. Entitled aunt and uncle, how dare you make your daughter your successor? Our son deserves that job. My boyfriend's father recently announced that he plans to retire in a few months and hand over the reins of his company to his right hand, i.e. his daughter and my boyfriend's sister Shania, name changed. She has been working with him for over a decade and has played a pivotal role in growing the company. She's an astute business person and everyone agrees that she is the ideal candidate for the job. Everyone except boyfriend's paternal uncle, entitled uncle, to know more about him and his problematic views on gender roles. Go to my post history and sort by top, and his wife entitled aunt. When they heard about this they were horrified. How dare his brother put a woman in charge of his business? How could they overlook their son, boyfriend's cousin, who was obviously more qualified for the job by virtue of having her? They didn't say it in so many words, but this is pretty much the gist of it. The uncle's son was denied a job at the company years ago on account of his erratic behavior and general ancillary idiocy. Back then, the uncle insisted that his son should just be handed a cushy job at the company simply because he was family. Now the uncle had the gall to expect his brother to make him in charge of the company when he steps down. His reasoning is that only a man should inherit the family business and that it just wasn't a woman's place. The uncle actually seemed way more upset about his niece getting the job than he was about his son not getting it. He and his wife kept repeating the same nonsense about how it was a huge mistake to put a woman in charge when male members of the family were available. Boyfriend's dad tried to explain to them why Shania was suitable for the job and the entitled uncle and entitled aunt's son wasn't. However, it's notoriously difficult to reason with bigots. They refused to listen and actually suggested that boyfriend's dad take their son under his wing and teach him. Because he's so smart and he can learn really fast. He'll run the company way better than Shania, you'll see. Also, since your son, i.e., my boyfriend, isn't man enough to be your heir, you should give our son a chance. They kept making ridiculous arguments like what about when she gets married? She'll change her surname. My boyfriend's dad tried to explain to them that whether she gets married and changes her surname or not is entirely her decision. And if she does, how on earth would it affect her business acumen and leadership skills? When my boyfriend's dad and sister shut them down, they changed tactics. Yesterday evening, boyfriend received a call from his aunt. She went on an insane rant about how my boyfriend's dad didn't know what he was doing. She then tried to provoke my boyfriend. She told him, since he was the son, it was his natural right to succeed his father and he shouldn't let his sister rob him of it. My boyfriend told her to never dial his number again and hung up. These idiots knew very well that my boyfriend has never been interested in his dad's business. But I guess, since their son wasn't getting to run the company, they decided to try to provoke a feud between my boyfriend and his sister, because they're the kind of sad, bitter little shits who just cannot see other people happy. How my entitled aunt and cousin ruined my 10th birthday. My aunt, dad's sister, has always been the textbook entitled witch. When I was a kid, she never missed an opportunity to make me feel like garbage. From thinly veiled insults to outright verbal and emotional abuse, she threw what she could at me in an attempt to break me. Of course, the disgust she felt for me and the faults she found in my dad's parenting never stopped her from mooching stuff off of him or asking him for favors without ever giving anything in return. She and her husband considered their son to be a gift from the heavens, and he too grew up to be a narcissistic bully who loved to torment me, even though I was 7 years younger than him. My mom passed when I was 1 year old and both my and grandmother had been abusive to her as well. But that's another tale for another time. This is about the time she, along with her son, ruined my 10th birthday. This incident resulted in me being put off of birthdays and deciding to never celebrate them again. I just couldn't see them as a cause for celebration. My entire extended family, which included the said aunt, uncle, and cousin along with some other relatives were at our home, and my dad and stepmom had gone out to run some errands. My cousin had invited some of his friends over, even though my dad and stepmom didn't know them. My dad allowed them to come after my aunt whined incessantly about how her son would be bored if his friends were not there. I remember sitting in my room and playing with my dog. I knew my cousin would be down there, and I usually did what I could to avoid him. At that time I suffered from a pretty bad stutter, and when I was upset or angry, it only got worse. This is something my cousin loved to make fun of, and of course, my birthday would be no different. He demanded that I come downstairs to talk to his friends. When I refused, his mother told me to stop being rude and do as I was told. I was a powerless kid, so I really had no other choice. I went down to the living room and my cousin introduced me to his buddies in his usual condescending way. As the birthday girl, he handed me a novel and told me to read out loud. I tried to read properly, but failed. I was surrounded with judgmental stares, and it made me nervous. I stuttered, which is exactly what my cousin was hoping for. He and his friends began to snicker. I got angry and stopped reading. Cousin called me a freak. His friends look at me as though I was on display at a zoo exhibit. I wanted to prove them wrong, that I wasn't a freak, that I could read. I tried reading again. This time, on account of me being angry, the stutter was much worse. My cousin decided to mock my stutter and all but one of his friends roared with laughter. The one that didn't actually noticed my tears and told the other to knock it off. He asked if I was okay. My cousin told him not to bother, it's just a joke, and that I was just an oversensitive baby. My rage was boiling over, and I threw the book at my cousin's face and stomped out. My aunt had seen what had happened and decided to pull me by my hair and drag me back to the living room. She told me to apologize to my cousin. I refused. She told me I needed to be taught a lesson for being a brat. I tried to tell her what had happened. She chuckled and said, so what? He's your cousin and her older than you. You need to respect him. Now apologize. I refused again. This time with a no. I hate you. I hate all of you. All the while crying and shaking with anger. This didn't sit well with aunt, and she slapped me before asking me why I didn't just die in the womb. She told me I was a troublemaker just like my mother had been. That she knew the day I was born that there was something wrong with me. That an evil witch like my mother couldn't possibly produce a normal kid. This was it. I balled up my fist and connected it to my aunt's face. I punched that bitch so hard, I busted her lip. By now, all the other relatives had heard the commotion and had gathered in the living room. The moment my fist connected with my aunt is when my dad and stepmom walked in through the front door. The aunt started fake crying. She berated my father for not raising me right and went on and on about how I was a violent, ill-mannered brat etc etc. The other relatives too expressed their disappointment in me. My dad asked me what the hell I thought I was doing. I tried to tell him what my cousin had done and what my aunt had said about my mother. Unfortunately, my stutter reared its ugly head again and all that came out of my mouth was gibberish. My tears were flowing again. In the meantime, my cousin had decided to take all his friends and bail. I was punished for my beastly conduct. My birthday celebration was cancelled. My dad called my friends and asked them not to come over. I didn't cut any cake. The presents I was to receive from my parents were stocked away. I was banished to my room and stayed there for the rest of the day. I ate lunch and dinner alone. The next morning, no one spoke to me. I was given my breakfast platter which I ate in my room. That afternoon, my cousin's friend, the one who had told them to stop bullying me, came over. He told my dad what my cousin had done and what my aunt had said. My dad sat me down and apologized to me, but added that it was still wrong of me to punch my aunt. I just sat there silently. I was emotionally numb. My dad kept telling me he loved me and that he was sorry. I just coldly stated at him. My stepmom suggested a belated birthday celebration. I refused. I told them I didn't want a birthday party and that I wouldn't celebrate my birthday ever again. I kept my word. Every year since that day, my parents would ask me what I wanted for my birthday and I always replied nothing at all. I would ask them not to get any cakes and not to invite any guests. The day I was born now meant nothing to me. Even now, after all these years, I don't celebrate my birthday. Instead, I celebrate the day I landed the job that enabled me to move away from my family and start a new life. I consider it the day of my rebirth. It was the day I was able to leave all the pain and anger behind and could plan for a life that I would live on my own terms. My aunt and uncle's crappy parenting ended up costing them dearly. If you wanna know what became of them, do let me know in the comments. It's pretty satisfying. Thank you for reading. Edit. I want to thank all of you for your kind words. I'm sorry I can't reply to each and every comment, but please know that your support means a lot to me. You people are amazing. I'll be posting about aunt and uncle's downfall within the next 24 hours. Stay tuned. How my entitled aunt and uncle's crappy parenting came back to bite them in the behind. My aunt, dad's older sister, has always doted on her son. I'm Indian and in my country son preference is a pervasive social disease. Most people, regardless of social status, religion etc. place great value in their sons and daughters are seen as a burden on the family. My aunt was no exception. Ever since she was a kid, she had this messed up, one-sided competition with my dad. I, a woman, am my dad's only child. This gave her an opportunity to constantly make passive-aggressive remarks that my dad was so unfortunate to have a daughter, his line would end with him etc. etc. She and her husband spoiled their son to the point that he became a narcissistic bully. He would often mock my stutter, cheat on his girlfriends, and make unreasonable demands of his parents. But did they ever try to discipline him or say no to him? Of course not. Their prince could do no wrong. If he made fun of my stutter, I was a piece of trash who deserved it. If he cheated on his girlfriend, she must have neglected him. If he made sexist remarks about his female boss, well, he's a man. You get the picture. Years went by, and he just kept getting worse. When he was living with them, he at least pretended to respect them. But when he landed a very high paying job and was able to move out, it was as if he forgot they even existed. He and his wife hardly ever spoke to them. By now my uncle had retired. My aunt had never worked. They had very little money left as they had spent it all on their son. They had paid for his education, his vacations, his wedding. Now they barely had enough to put food on the table. My dad would help them as much as he could. In 2011, my cousin's wife became pregnant, and during her third trimester, my cousin asked his parents to move in with him and his wife. We all knew it was because they wanted free caretakers for the baby. But my aunt just couldn't shut up about how wonderful her son was for wanting to take care of his parents. By now I was well established in my field and was looking forward to a successful career. She taunted my father one last time, saying my education and career would be of no use as I was just a daughter and could never take care of him the way her son would take care of her. My dad just smiled and wished her well. She and her husband moved to my cousin's, who lived in another place. My dad would often receive calls and texts from her bragging about what a great life they had. She sounded a bit too chipper. My dad began to suspect that I wasn't right. About 6 months after they had left, my dad said he was going to visit them as he was getting worried about his sister. He asked me and my stepmom to accompany him. We reluctantly agreed. We arrive at their place, and it is truly stunning. A luxurious home in a posh locality. This was no surprise as my cousin is very successful. What did shock us was the way he was treating his parents. They were practically servants in his house. My aunt tended to the baby, cooked and cleaned. My uncle tended to the gardens, took care of the cars, and went grocery shopping, etc. My cousin could easily afford maids, drivers, etc. But why would he when his parents were now his free slaves? What was even worse was the way he treated them. My cousin-in-law would often yell at my aunt and would just order her around. My uncle had this vacant and defeated look in his eyes. I had never liked him, but couldn't help but feel a tinge of pity. My dad took my aunt aside and told her she didn't have to live like this, that he could make arrangements for her and her husband. My aunt put on a fake smile and said, "Nonsense, we couldn't be happier." Anytime my cousin or his wife said something cruel to her or told her to shut up when she tried to make conversation, my aunt would put on a smile and act as though it was just the sweetest thing anyone had ever said to her. It would have been funny had it not been so pitiful. Memories of all the horrible things she had said and done to me and my dad were still fresh in my mind. And the schadenfreude was real. My aunt's fake, rueful smiles and the way she tried to cover up how her son was really treating her is the cringiest thing I have ever seen. My aunt and uncle often stressed the importance of having a male heir. They claimed that their son would be their provider while I, a daughter, would be a burden till the day I was married off. Surprise, surprise. The exact opposite has happened. While they were basically slaves in their son's house, I'm unmarried, have a loving partner, wonderful pets and friends and a great career. My dad has his own restaurant and seems very happy with his work. Entitled parents often assume that their kid can be an asshole to everyone else, but he would never do that to them. Boy, are they in for a shock. Edit. My cousin hasn't completely escaped karma either. A few months ago, he got fired from his job. And his boss at his new place of employment is his ex-girlfriend whom he cheated on and dumped. All because he didn't like the fact that she was more successful than him. She's a wonderful person and won't misuse her power. But I'm sure working under his ex is eating my cousin alive.